Good morning, wonderful participants. Day 5, Session 2, AACT ISD sponsored induction refresh programming on business intelligence and big data analytics. Today, our resource person is Professor Linear.
I'm not able to hear it. Is the same with all of you? Or? Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir. Sir.
Hello? Yeah, I couldn't hear it in the last
Sir.
few minutes. Yeah, so I was actually logged out and logged
Yeah,
in.
no problem.
So shall I
Yeah,
go?
no problem, sir. No problem, sir.
So
Yeah, shall I move, sir? Shall I move, sir? Please.
okay, sir. Okay. Yeah. Good morning to all of you. Let me share my screen. So in the previous session, the first day, I think we covered the decision trees, then random forest, some of the bagging and boosting methods, and bias variance trade-offs. Of course, we want to take any questions for there at that point of time. We can take today. Uh, of course, you can ask me any point of time. So, can anyone please confirm that my screen is visible and I am also audible clearly?
Yes. Sir, your screen is visible, sir. Audio is also
Okay,
okay, sir.
okay. Yeah. Today I try to cover the regression models. Of course, the topic was the multiple linear regression, but to before understanding multiple linear regression, to how to evaluate the coefficients, everything, first we'll talk about the linear regression and we move to the multiple linear regression. Normally, if you take any data, suppose this is actually I taken from one of the standard textbook. This data, there is a company is having some kind of a budget to do the advertisement, and they want to keep that advertisement. If they spend money in advertising in the TV, advertisement in the radio, and advertisement in the newsletter. So they want to understand how their sales is performed in the past if they advertise in these three different channels. So here there are many possibilities present, exist. This is a simple scatter plot to understand the relationship between the TV and sales, radio or sales, or maybe newsletter sales. You can see this is a given data. We are trying to making a linear model to fitting the linear model, right? The TV and sales. And whereas in the radio, here also we are fitting the straight line. But look at it, there is a spread on one side is smaller than the other side. Correct? And in the third one, the data here, though we are making this straight line fit, we are going, the spread is more on both the sides, and it doesn't looks like there's any relationship exists between the newspaper and the sales. These are very good for the smaller data sets to visualize the scatter plots, but when you are going for a higher, large data sets, how we can draw that, whether a particular feature is having relation with the other feature, or maybe particularly the class label in this case. And whenever we talk about the regression model, we usually go for least square approximation, correct? So we want to minimize the errors, both the total errors, the sum of errors we want to minimize. So now it is always good to look at the more closely. If you look at, if I put some more amount of money in the TV, the sales may increase. But if you look at this curve, this line, initial portions are very close to the line, but the other things are not like that. Correct? So this is scatter plot indicates that if we at all we keep more and more budget, more the amount is spent in the TV, your sales will be increased. For example, if I spend 300K here, so I am expecting that when I may be having this kind of a sales, this is giving, right? But the point is more clear, more important here is, you can see there's a point that maybe this is all, there's a possibility, right? They can go here or can go here also. That means whatever that we are, by this line regression, we are expecting something, but it may not be reality, maybe something different. So that's what where we are more focusing on this regression analysis. Regression models are regression analysis. So in this case, you can see we can easily know that one how the each attribute or maybe feature is related to the other feature. Now sometimes the data may not be very linear, so we may prefer going for a curvilinear. Right? Maybe the linear model may not be sufficient. Somebody can go for a higher learning models. So the basic idea is we have a data points. We have a data points, right? So we want to fit some function f of x for this kind of a data, right? Y is equal to f of x. So because this is like a true function, function is this supposed to be do like this, right? This is a function which proves, but it is very hard to regress this one with this function to define the function that can be catered to this kind of a data. So now what we are trying to doing is we are trying to making a maybe assuming that when there is a linear relationship exists between x and y, so we can go for a linear model. If at all we are going linear model, we are trying to linear model means y is equal to mx plus c, right? So I'm trying to find the values of m and c. These are nothing but these are parameters. So instead of defining a function, I am trying to estimate now the m and c values from the given data, right? So sometimes if it's not a linear model, not possible, we may go to the maybe a quadratic model or cubic model. That's what we have seen in the previous session, right? So this will also be possible. So if a linear relationship, or maybe it could be sometimes like a curvilinear relationship, the possibility. But always is good to understand the kind of a relation between the attributes. Now, before going towards to the code regression, let us go to understand the correlation, because these are the terms we frequently come across, and sometimes they may be having similar, maybe some different. Then we better to look at the difference between the correlation and the regression. And of course, whenever we say that the correlation between x and y, we always think that one give the importance to the same importance to the both the attributes. That means if xy is correlated or y and x is correlated, both almost the same. Both are same only, right? But in the regression, we say x and y are regressed. Y is here a dependent attribute on x. X is independent attribute, y is a dependent attribute. And in all the regression models, we usually call the it could be x, or it could be like x1, x2, x3, x4, xn, right? So these are called predictors, and this is called a response variable. So now it's always good to understand the basics. Then of course the other things will be more on a mathematical expressions. So let us start with the variance, or maybe the correlation coefficient means we start with the variance. And these are all we are familiar, right? These are all very familiar. Now that means which are making the values, we're having a values. We're trying to see the variance talks about the deviation from the mean for points in one dimension. That means the spread of set of points, right? You have a set of points, but you can see how they are different. Suppose you can say this is like a x. I have the values. I will see how each and value is spread, the spread of the points around the center of mass. So that means the deviation from the mean we are trying to calculate. And here, the most important aspect is we always say that mean, right? Can any one of you can tell what is the inference of a mean? When we say what is that we are reasoning or inferencing that we are coming from the mean, or what is exactly mean means? Any responses from the participants? Of course, this is all we have studied in our 10th standard. I'm not asking any mean. Just I'm looking at, we want to make our understanding how it leads to the regression analysis later. Can anyone respond? What do you mean?
It's an average of values.
Average of values is yes, but average and mean are like a synonymous, right? Either you can call mean or you can call both as average is a synonyms of that one. I'm trying to looking at what exactly what you can say that mean means, what it indicates. I know we day to day we are using this mean so many places. Any other responses? Or let me discuss more on this one. Maybe going for, suppose if I have a value x is there, I will have a values here. Maybe suppose some value is missing. Can you tell what is the possible the value that we take for this particular one? I'm saying the x value was there. I taken all these values for there. Assume that they are numerical, correct? Numerical. So this one value is missing. Just I'm saying that okay, let me put some what is the good value for this one to consider, because there is missing value, so I want to impute it. Can you suggest what was the good value for that? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, am I asking any difficult questions?
Yeah, no, sir.
Just I'm asking about these simple things which we already, I know all of you guys know this one and we are using also.
Yeah. Exactly, sir.
So if at all some value was not there, we usually say, okay, why can't take average and keep here? Correct? Suppose some value was now, I want to say what is could be the next value. Suppose somebody asked me, okay, you're taken T1, T2, T3, TP, T maybe TZ. We say what is the TZ plus 1? What is that we tell? Of course, we say that we don't have any model. Model is not there, but just we want to tell what is the value. We say maybe better to take average and then put it here. Correct? That's what we usually do, that one average. Value will keep here. Now, suppose let me take one more also value y. Okay, y. For this, okay, now I'm having some value here, x is there, all these values are there. Now I want to predict a value of y. If I don't have any model, I'm not saying I got down to get a regression model or anything. I don't have any model. Simply, this is given to me data. What is that I'm looking for? I want to, what is the value for the given xi? Maybe this could be a xi. What could be the value here? This is same as earlier in the single attribute when I considering, right? We say, okay, because this I don't have any model, let me say that okay, y bar is the could be the good choice for this one. I'm correct. So always the mean is talks about the expected outcome. Suppose you can say what is the expected outcome for this one? This also be y bar. This is what is the expected outcome for this x2? This y bar. This is all expected things. That is, without having any model with us, based on the given data, we can expect the what. So mean actually talks about where the most of the values will fall. That is the mean. That is the average or mean we are calling it as. In other words, the expected outcome of any value. Suppose you can say you're doing some observations, you're making it. What you're expecting? You're expecting maybe the value, some value where it maybe corresponds to the other attribute, or maybe it's within this attribute. Whatever you take, that is called a mean. So it's like a expected outcome of a particular variable is mean. That means most of the values, without having any other knowledge, we are saying that okay, this particular value, like I suppose if I'm calculating a particular sensor value, and I always say that okay, sensor value might be this one. So most of the values where it falls in a given data, that is actually representing the mean. Is this clear?
Yes, sir, clear, sir.
Yeah, that's why whenever you can see in the when you start with the mass or even some of the things, you will have a table, right? A sigma x comma xy, sigma xy, all the things you can calculate to find the average. Of course, finally we can say if it is a simple numerical, then we can go for the average by some of the items by n. That is the formula for this one. Okay. Now, what do you mean by variance? Variance means the deviation from the mean. Why mean? Because that's what I'm expected, y bar, but you given the actual value. This is x1, I got y1, x2, y2, x3, y3, x3, x4, y4. But what is my expectation? Expectation is y bar. So from the expectation, our value, what is how much it is deviated, correct? So I'm trying to find the deviation from this one, every value. So if we say x bar, so how much it is deviated, my expected value. The total variability in the data is nothing but variance. Is it clear? That is variance. That's why we say deviation from the mean. Why special mean? Because that's what we are expected value, expected outcome, but the actual value is somewhat different. Like y1 is suppose different. Y1. So we can say, suppose if y you are taking sigma yi minus y bar whole square, right? That's what we usually take the whole square kind of things. By n minus 1 something, we will have a variance formula. So this is why we should consider this is the reason. Because the values are deviating from the mean, so we want to know what is the variability involved in the data. So then the covariance is always between the two attributes. If I tell variance means always between only one attribute, covariance we talk about the always with the two attributes. So how much is happening, the deviation is happening, the each of the dimensions vary from their mean with respect to each other. So that's what the x is x bar, suppose y is mean is y bar. So how each value is deviating from their respective means together. This is called a covariance. So that's why this variance and covariance actually gives a good information about the spread of the points around the center of mass. Okay. So now we can say whether they're positively correlated or they're negatively correlated, right? Because as x is increasing, as y is increasing, or x is increasing, y is decreasing, or in the vice versa. So there's a positive variance and there's a negative variance, correct? So these are like increasing here in the case of a decreasing. So how we can compute the variance? Variance is nothing but a square of the standard deviation. And if you have the value of x, then we can say x bar is the mean. Then we can call xi minus x bar by n minus 1. This is the deviation which is coming up by n minus 1. And if we consider two attributes, then we can go for a covariance. Right? Suppose you have x bar here and you have y bar here. I say xi minus x bar into yi minus y bar by n minus 1. Now, you can, if you observe it, I'm just looking, like my pointer is not working. Okay. So now, if you look at this is x and y, instead of x and y, suppose assume this is also x, suppose. This is the x, this is x. That means like in DBMS we call it self-joining, right? X and x. Then what will happen? X minus x bar into x minus x bar. That means x minus x bar whole square, right? So that's why when we're talking about a single attribute, we talk x minus x bar whole square and n minus 1. Whereabout when you talk about two variables, the covariance, without x minus x bar into y minus y bar by n minus 1. The important aspect is the value of the covariance which is coming up. If the covariance is greater than 0, we can call this is a positive covariance. That means they're moving in the same direction. If it's less than 0, I can call it as a negative covariance. Okay? That means they're moving opposite directions. And the covariance is 0. That means both the attributes are independent. Covariance is 0. That means both are independent. So if you have more than 3 attributes, what do you do normally? So then obviously we have to go for a covariance matrix. So normally as a variance or covariance is between the pair of the attributes. Just 1 minute. ఏంటి సార్ కింద నెల అయితే పడలేదు మరి, కింద నెల పడలేదు మరి, పడలేదు. నవంబర్ లేదని కనుక్కోలేదు. మేము ఫిబ్రవరిలో ఇస్తాం కదా, ఎప్పుడు ఫిబ్రవరిలో ఇస్తున్నాము, ఇప్పుడు మనం ఫిబ్రవరిలో ఇస్తున్నాము.
Sir? Hello? Sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think there's some issue. Was there some this pointer because of the
No problem, sir. Sorry,
screens
no
are
problem.
very this is smart screens. Some press will be gone into the mute automatically.
Yeah, no problem, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So this is a covariance matrix. Always will be between the pairs. So whenever we have more than 3 attributes, we have to go for all the pairs we can represent in the form of a matrix, where the diagonals are concerned with the variance and rest of things are with the covariance. And it's like almost like a triangular matrix kind of a thing. Of course, this is not much thing for our regression models, but just for an understanding purpose. Let me see. So now the covariance of between two variables, if it is like a greater than 0, we can say they are positively correlated, and then if they are less than 0, we say inversely correlated, and equal to 0, we can say they are independent. So what is the sign of the covariance? That means here the important is we are interested more on the sign of the covariance. And when you say greater than 0, that means it can go to up to infinity, right? Less than 0 means it can go to infinity. So I can say 0 to infinity, 0 to minus infinity, right? So anything between these things, I can call it like a positive correlated and inversely correlated. But is it, can we say, okay, how long we can go like this, correct? So that is what we call it as for getting the correlation coefficient, can we normalize it? So instead of going to 0 to infinity, or maybe the other thing is positive value, not the 0, it's like a 1 to infinity or maybe 0.1 to infinity. Okay. So instead of that, can we make into minus infinity to infinity? Can we talk about like a minus 1 to plus 1? Can we normalize these values into this one? Normally, when you have a attribute like a age and income, what we do? This is like a 0 to 100. This could be like a 0 to few lakhs. Then we come to the common scale, right? That's what we call a normalization or standardization. So maybe we'll try to divide by the max minus min value. Maybe everything will be between the 0 and 1. Right? This also will try to make it 0 to 1. Or maybe common range. Similarly here, if we can standardize the covariance into -1 to +1 kind of a thing, then usually we call it as a correlation coefficient, normally called Pearson's correlation coefficient. So the Pearson's correlation coefficient is nothing but it is a standardized covariance. It's a standardized covariance, always have values between -1 to +1. So when you can say standardized means we need to divide that covariance with some values, correct? Usually max value minus min value are between norms and everything. Here in the standardization, in the Pearson correlation coefficient, they divide this covariance by square root of variance x and square root of variance y. Now we can see we have the formulas for this one, right? Covariance of x comma y, we are having this is like a sigma xi minus x bar into yi minus y bar by n minus 1. The variance x is sigma xi minus x bar whole square by n minus 1. Variance of y is sigma yi minus y bar whole square by n minus 1, right? So by simply substituting these values, we can able to get the Pearson correlation coefficient. So what is the benefit of having this kind of a correlation? It actually talks about the strength of the relationship between the variables. So we're talking about covariance. It's a positive correlation, negative correlation, but how strong they are, right? So now you want to compare how whether x and y are related more or x and y are more related, right? But if you take only the covariance, what you can say, because it's up to the infinity how to compare these things. But now if it's between like some kind of a defined range, then we can straightforward we can tell, okay, maybe x and y are correlated. Maybe I say maybe the correlated, the strength of this relationship could be higher, or maybe sometimes I can say the strength of the relationship here may not be that much high. So that's why if they're closer to -1, I can say stronger negative relationship. If they have a closer to 1, we can say talk about like a positive relationship. When it is a 0, closer to 0, we can say either it could be there's no relationship exists or it is a weak relationship. Now these are the simple diagrams to understand, and you can have you can see this is a -1, strong negative correlation. But you can also observe that when almost all the points are on the same line, on the line, and here also same positive correlation. This is a strong positive correlation. But this could be like if it's like a -0.6, maybe there's some kind of dispersion was there, right? It's a plus 0.3. Because it's not exactly close to 1, right? It's somewhat close to 0, going towards to 0. But if it's actually 0 or maybe very close to 0, then that means there's no relationship exists in these two cases. Now, there could be a linear relationship or there is a curvilinear relationship is possible. And you can get these good diagrams from this book. They are very good, though it is old, but it explains very nicely these concepts. The idea is how close they are with the line. So if they are very close to the line, we call it as a strong relationship. If they are far, we can call it as a weak relationship. That's why suppose somebody gives a data set like attributes, then it is always good to say whether how this x and y are related. Particularly when we talk about the linear regression, we need to see that one how they are correlated. So when there is no relationship, that means even x is increasing, there is no change in the y value, right? So sometimes we can say that one, there may not be any relation between the x and y. So to simplify this covariance one, if you substitute the equations, we can get SSXY by square root of SSX. SS means sum of squares. So, right, these are the sum of squares of x, the sum of squares of x, sum of squares of y. This is sum of square SS of x, comma xy. So I can represent a correlation coefficient in this form. And I just coming to why we have to study these things, correct? So here numerator is the covariance, and this is the denominator is here the numerator of variance. Now, is there correlation? What I'm saying is there any problem issue in calculating the correlation coefficient? Are there any error involved in the correlation coefficient calculation? Normally, what we call it as the correlation coefficient follows always the t distribution with n minus 2 degrees of freedom. That's why we used to calculate the standard error involved in estimating the correlation coefficient. Always remember, if there's a hat symbol is there, that it usually indicate that estimation. Okay, so this is actually, if there's no hash symbol, this is the actual value. So 1 minus r square by n minus 2 under square root. So with that back end, now because we'll come back somewhere here, these the equations. You remember this one. Sigma I equal to 1 to n, x minus x bar into y minus y bar, by sigma I equal to 1 to into x minus x bar whole square, and under square root of sigma y equal to 1 to n, y minus y bar whole square. Just you remember this one, we will come back again that one. So in the linear regression, the idea is the one variable is considered as an independent, and the other variable you consider as a dependent variable. That means the y is dependent on x. That's why always we say x and y when you're writing is different from the x and y and x. When the correlation is both are same, x and y or y and x are almost same. Now this is if you want to understand the linear regression, we know y equal to mx plus c. That is our standard one, which we are all familiar. Now, if you want to draw that one, we can say there's a line was drawn having with an intercept c and an intercept with the m. So this is what we know, right? Suppose this is like a x and this is the y. So I can draw a line like this, y is equal to mx plus c. Now again, I want to just to ask that what you can infer from this diagram. So if you understand this one, so some of the algorithms can be easily understandable. Can anyone tell what you can get infer from this one? Interpretation of this or inferencing of this? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm just looking because if you please speak, all of you please speak, because otherwise I'm thinking that I am talking to some laptop. Okay. So can you infer? This is all we familiar, right? Are we familiar with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then what is that we can infer from this? Because we write many times we draw the lines, correct? Or we can't infer anything from this. Okay. So normally when we have this kind of a event, suppose we always talk about a unit change in x, how it affects the change in y. Because when you talk about when for a given x, I want to find y, correct? That means I want to say how the changes are happening. And if we, when I talk about like a covariance, what we are taking, how each is happen with together, correct? Similar way here, if the values are x is changing, how the values are changing here. In other words, 1 unit change of x reflects what here? Normally, if you say m is equal to 1, that is slope, right? If m is equal to 1, I can say 1 unit change in x reflects the 1 unit change in y. If m is equal to 2, a 1 unit change in x reflects 2 units changes of y. So in general, if I have a m, so 1 unit change in x reflects m units change in y. That means how the change is happening, right? If we are having changes in the values. So maybe some of you may be already gone through logistic regression. Is the logistic regression covered in the previous sessions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the logistic regression, have you seen such kind of a line? You may not be seen, correct? Because always you talk about like this something. But maybe at some place you may be seen why you call it as a regression. Have you got anybody got clarity that why you say logistic regression? Logistic regression actually it is a classifier, but this is like a regression technique, right? This is a regression technique, linear regression. Logistic regression is a classifier. Then why this regression term came? Have you heard about any log odds? This term was, have you come across this term, log odds? Odds and log odds. Have you heard these words? Can you
Participants, please respond.
huh? Yeah, participants are not responding. I don't know.
Yeah. Participants. Yes, sir, please go ahead, sir.
Okay. So usually you can say log odds, log of like a p of x by 1 minus p of x, something like this equation you may be seen. Maybe p of x, you can say that e to the power of some x by 1 minus e to the power of x, right? So you can see this log odds have this like a beta 0 plus beta 1x, something we will get it equation, right? That means you have a log odds here and you have a one unit change in x is reflecting the log odds of change here. That's what the logistic regression. So that means what we need to understand is what exactly means that we are going to be regressing here. What we information what is the information that we can get from such kind of things, that is more important. I know we are familiar with these things and we are using it. It's not like if only familiarity, but day-to-day life we use this many examples, many applications on this one. So a slope of 2 means that every 1 unit change in x yields 2 unit change in y. But in general, if you have a slope of m means that every 1 unit change in x yields m unit change in y. So this is the more important aspect. And why I'm saying this is more important, we'll see in next few slides itself. So now let's come to the what we are doing here. That means I have a values of x and y given to me, right? If I know value of x, I can predict the value of y. Right? That is y is equal to mx plus c. So you can substitute the value of x, so I can get the value of y. That means if I know the value of x, I am having the knowledge about predicting the value of y. Is correct? I'm actually rephrasing my sentence only. So it appears as like a conditional probability, right? In Bayesian, if you look at the Bayes theorem, we'll come across these conditional probabilities and even the Bayes models, correct? And even if you studied the Bayesian classifier, you may be seeing that one the particular attribute age with respect to the particular class x. Suppose if you say binary class, maybe it's a class x and the same kind of a attribute value with respect to class y. What is the probability that you are computing it? Is the Bayesian classifier covered? So now this conditional probability, you can say that one, we can say could be you can estimating the value of yi given xi. So the regression equation is nothing but we are having beta 0 plus beta 1 xi. So this is nothing but c is equal to, sorry, y equal to mx plus c. Same equation, only just you are adding the terms as a beta 0 and beta 1, nothing else. Like m is beta 1 and c is beta 0. Because this notation may be much easier to go for multiple linear regression. Because it's only one attribute was there. Right? One is x and is y. But instead of x, if we have like x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, and then y. Okay? That means multiple attributes may be there that leads to multiple linear regression. So now expected value of y, expected value of y at a given value of x. That means you are for a given value of xi, can I estimate the value of yi? So that is nothing but this beta 0 plus beta 1 into xi, or you can say it's like a y equal to mx plus c. Y is equal to mx plus c, same. So if you look at it, we always will have a calculate the, whenever you are estimating a value, you will always there will be error associated with that. So I can get these values beta 0 and beta 1 coefficients by fitting the regression line. I can get it. This random error is also be an important aspect, because whenever we are looking any kind of data, error can be there, part of it. Right? Usually we call it the epsilon, the random error. And our understanding is the error involved in the data could follow the normal distribution. So with this assumption only, later we can see some of the values will compute it. Like a t value, t test, and then p values and everything. So now when we say we are doing this, suppose given a points, right? Given a points, what do you say linear regression means? We are fitting with a line. And it is like a more easy to say that, no, okay, I can fit the line, but what are the assumptions that we are considering? If at all we say this is a usable for us, this kind of a line. So it is very essential that one understanding these assumptions. Maybe here you can see the first assumption is we are assuming that the x and y are linearly related. If that is, if suppose if we say they are not linear, maybe we may not go into this one. We may be gone to some other regression models. That's why the relationship between x and y is linear. So with that assumption only, we are actually starting that, can we fit a linear model for this? And second, third are important. So y is distributed normally at every value, each value of x. That means the value of x is there, value of y is there. If you remember what we talk about is m. I'm not. It doesn't mean that one. If value is here is there, it's like a 2 into x. It's not like that. The change in x with respect to change in y. So that means the value, each value of x, you take any value of x, the y is distributed normally. That means you can say at the value of x, you may be having many points. It may not be one point, you can have multiple points. Because if I say 1 comma 2, and then there is a possibility that from somewhere I can have a 1 comma 8 also, correct? There is a possibility come 1 comma minus 3, something. Maybe you have other values also. That means with respect to 1, there is a possibility of multiple values could be there here. But whatever it is at each value of x, we say that when this y is distributed normally. Why that is more important? Because this third one, you can look at it, the variance of y, please remember, note it, variance of y at every value of x is the same. This is a third interesting assumption. And without this one, actually we will go ahead and then do a lot of regression analysis, but this is important. Variance of y at every value of x. What is variance of y we mentioned? Variance means the deviation from the mean, right? So that is what is the deviation? This is the deviation. At each value, what is the deviation, right? So that means you can see here, this is the values at each point, right? It is not saying that one this line, the distance is same, but the variance is same. So we can say here this is sigma 1, this is sigma 2, this is sigma 3. The basic assumption is will be same. The variance will be same. In other words, the changes are happening for their respective means in each and every attribute will be same. So what that means, we say this is x at a point x1, x2 or x3. You take any point, the variance is the same. So that means the standard error that is associated with the y for a given x, that means what is the error here in the, so this is the x, what is the error? That means this is like a point of this one, but the true points will be somewhere else. So this is like a predicted point. The point which is on the straight line is the predicted point, but these are real points, correct? So the error, what is the error? You have to do this yi minus y bar or yi minus yi cap, correct? The standard of y given x is the average variability around the regression line at any given value of x. So that means we are trying to make the average variability here, the variability here, variability here, variability here. Correct? So what is the average variability at each value of x? What we are assumption is they are equal. So of course you can make the values how you're computing it. That is the meaning of this one. The variance of y at every value of x is the same. Then the fourth assumption is the observations are independent. This is another interesting assumption, because I say this is like a x1 when I have values x comma y, x1, y1, x2, y2 kind of thing, right? So each one is observation, sample, observation, tuple, all the different names, correct? So that means this is the observation we noted down, this is the observation we noted down, this is the observation we noted down. So that means the observations with respect to this, with respect to this, both are independent. That means if I say x1 comma y1 is now observed it, and the next observation is x2 comma y2, is this observation depending on this or not? Well, if at all we are going for linear regression model, our assumption is this event is entirely independent with respect to the previous event. This is one observation on its own, this is another observation on its own. Suppose if you are familiar with the iris data set, which commonly used for in the machine learning or data mining techniques, correct? So you can have the 4 attributes: petal length, petal width, sepal length, sepal width, correct? And then the class label. Now, for one particular leaf, you are giving this information. Another leaf, there is not like this leaf actually comes from this one, may not be cut, right? They are independent. So the observations are independent. So what happens if they are dependent? That means the value, observation value T2 is dependent on T1. If you take the stock market data, what you can say? Now current value of this one could be the based on your previous value, correct? So that's why people may not fit with the simple linear regression. They will go for ARIMA kind of a models where you can have the observations are dependent on the previous steps. The auto-regressive models, people will move into that. Some of you maybe observed it. Why we have going for a advanced models like a ARIMA, the auto-regressive models, correct? So with these assumptions, actually we start and working on the linear regression. Now this is a clear picture of the regression, and believe me, if you can understand this picture, the whole rest of the regression is straightforward, only having some kind of a equations. Now look at it, I have a values of x and I'm having values of y. I actually fitted it with a regression line. So what is the regression line? Regression line is a alpha plus beta xi, right? Y cap is nothing but what is alpha and beta, not worry about it. It's like a m is equal y equal mx plus c only. The same thing, mx plus c. Or you can say beta 0 plus beta 1x. These are like each and every book will follow different notation. That is what they are. Otherwise, this alpha and beta is nothing but alpha is like a beta 0 and beta is nothing but beta 1. Now, how we are getting this one? Our idea is basically to minimize the least squares. Least square approximation method. That's what we usually call, correct? So now there are few of the things for the like A, B, C. So let's try to understand what is A, what is B, what is C. Just before going to that, you can see what is the least squares. That means we want to understand the point, the difference between the point to here, correct? And point to here, point here. So this is square of these things, we are trying to minimize it. Is it correct? We take these values and making it. What is that means? What is the value here? This is the predicted value. Suppose you can say at yi, you predict the value of yi cap. But what is this value? That is a true point. That means, so yi is a true value, this is a predicted value. So the difference is we can call it a error, or most word is residual. Commonly used word is residual. Suppose assume that it's like a error, yi minus y bar. We are trying to minimize this least squares, means we are trying to sigma yi minus y bar whole square. We are trying to minimize this one. Correct? So this is like a ei. Now I say e1 plus e2 plus so on, ei plus so on, like en. So I'm trying to minimizing it. yi minus 1, I say e, that means e1 square plus e2 square plus en square, correct? I'm trying to minimize this one. Now you look at this is C. C is nothing but the point to this one, correct? That's what we are also talking about just now. This is nothing but the yi is the actual true value. Yi cap means we are predicted value. So the C is nothing but yi and y bar. So what we are trying to minimize? We are trying to minimizing the C square. The whole regression analysis, how the regression we do for this finding the line. Otherwise, there are many possibilities. Correct? I have this line, like any line is possible. But out of those things, I am trying to define only one line, which is giving me as a least squares approximation. That means the C square, the minimal C square we are trying to find out. So we'll come back to that and then let's see what are these things. And if you remember, when I asked the question that one, what is the mean? Right? Mean is nothing but expected outcome. Right? Expected value. That means we are expecting that value, y bar, suppose expecting a value. That means what? I have x and y. There's values of lot of x values are there and y also there. Y also there. Now, what is expected value also I'm looking at it. Expected value, okay, I say. What is expected value? We always say okay, y bar. That means irrespective without any regression. I'm saying that without doing any modeling, what our expectation of y is nothing but y bar. Correct? So that means if you look at here in this one, if you don't have any model, suppose this line is not there, for any value of x, x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, you are expected the value of y is y bar. Right? So this line is now meant for that. It's a y bar. Now it is more easy to understand. This is what my expected value. Right? The expected value of y at every value of x. Now look at what is the value of what is the a. A is nothing but this is the expected value y bar. This is yi. That means true value. Right? So yi minus y bar. The difference between these two, expected value minus true value. Say true value minus expected value whole square. What value, what it is giving? Can anyone tell? So this is the y value and this is the expected value. Now what we are taking about, the a is nothing but the difference between these two. Of course, the whole square will be there. The yi minus y bar whole square. Can anyone tell what is this one? What this a square or a represents? It's nothing but the variance, correct? The variability. That means you want to get a yi value here, the y1, y2, y3, but you are expected this one. The difference is nothing but the variance. yi minus y bar, right? yi minus y bar whole square. That means in the whole data, what is the variability associated with y? If at all we don't have any model, because without any model we come out with model, what is that we are having the variability? So that's why this a square is nothing but total variation. That means the variability, total variability associated with the value of y. The total sum square distance of observations from the navy mean of y. I think now you may be clear why we had discussed about the mean and variance in the beginning. Now look at what is b. See, that means b is from this line, point on the line to this y bar. Y bar is what is y bar? Y bar is the expected value. This is a prediction, correct? This is a predicted value, correct? If it is on the line, that means yi cap minus y bar is the b. That means earlier we are saying that this is a true value, which is I know this is real point. This yi is the real point. This is the expected value. Now I predicted this value using some model. Now I can say I predicted some value. Right? I say y1 cap, y2 cap, y3 cap. These are all predicted value. So you are predicting a value here, but this is the expected value. How much the predicted value is deviating from your expected value? That is another interesting thing, correct? So you are getting the yi minus y bar whole square. In other words, I am trying to find the variability in the data once you make a model like this. But what is y1 cap, y2 cap, y3 cap? They are the data points on this line, correct? How we got this line? because we did do the regression. We applied a regression, right? That means by applying regression, due to regression, what is the variability in the value of y due to x? So that is called a SS regression. That because of the regression, we applied a regression. So what is the variability in y due to x? That is y minus y bar whole square. Earlier we were saying the variability before regression. If you look at this one, we assume that when there is no regression was not done, we think our expected value from the real value is total variability associated in the data. Before regression, this B is representing the variability, the variability that is associated with the data with respect to the regression. Now C, we have already seen the C, y minus cap y by y minus square, y cap minus y by y, right? That is nothing but error term. So now, what is that we are doing? We are trying to minimize in this C square. Now, let us look at closely these things. The variance around the regression line, that means, so residual means the error also term is called residual. That's why it's called SS residual. So additional variability not explained by X. That means there is some kind of a variability was there that was not explained by X, if at all after using this regression model. Right? That's the y minus y square. So later we can see this is like a total sum of squares. This is the residual sum of squares, RSS. Now, what exactly we wanted? We want to say by doing this regression, can I tell I'm able to predict 100% accurate or not? Right? That means how much confidence I have on this prediction. Because tomorrow we are giving a value of x, you are trying to predict the value of y, but how much confidence that you are having on that particular value of y? Correct? That means we should get some kind of a confidence. How you can confidence? Because we know each and every data point may be associated with an error. That's why we call y is equal to mx plus c plus epsilon. Correct? Now that's what we are doing it here. And this is the analysis we can say. Suppose if you want to know this one due to regression, what could be the variability you are getting? Nothing but you can say it is a TSS minus RSS. You can bring to here, right? It is TSS minus RSS. You can see that means before regression and after regression, TSS is before regression, correct? This is the after regression. Now using these values, you can try to find a value called R square. R square is nothing but SS regression by SS total. SS regression is nothing but SS total minus SS residual, correct? By SS total. So this is nothing but TSS minus RSS by TSS. Right? This is nothing but a R squared measure. This measure only shows us how good our regression analysis is, however our regression method is. Later we try to define the equations for the R square. R square nothing but TSS minus RSS by R square. But you can now also know it. What is the RSS? RSS is nothing but this one. Right? Residual sum of squares 1. Is this clear? This picture is clear? Is this picture is clear? The understanding of this picture? Okay, I am assuming that you understand it because we are going with all assumptions only. Now I also assume that we are actually you understand this, or maybe you may be already knowing it. Okay. Now just see that once we have that basic understanding, rest of things are very straightforward and one. It's a linear regression. You can say we are saying that we are fitting the line, but most of them the true functions could be the true fitting could be something like this. So that's why true functions may not be never linear, but most of the cases it works nicely. That's why you can say we have a good understanding about the conceptual and practical aspects of this linear regression. So whenever we have such kind of a data, we are trying to find whether any kind of a attribute these are useful for me to do analysis or not. If at all there is a relation exists, can we say that relationship is like a how strong or how weak that relation? And is that all these attributes are relevant for me, or maybe some of the attributes are relevant for me for doing the analysis? And when we talk about the simple linear regression, where we have only single predictor, and of course always will be responsible with the only one only, but we say with single predictor x we call it a simple linear regression. In the case of we have multiple attributes, multiple predictors, then we call it as a multiple linear regression. So we'll start with again with the simple linear regression. We call it as a y is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x plus epsilon, where beta 0 is the slope, beta 0 is the intercept, beta 1 is the slope, and epsilon is the error associated with this data point. So now these beta 0 and beta 1 also called coefficients, regression coefficients. Now if suppose some value as x is given and we are trying to predict the value of y. No, so suppose if I want to give this, suppose if I have the based on this data, if I want to find out for a given new x, maybe xk, if I want to predict value of yk, correct? Then my regression model try to allow us to define the values of beta 0 and beta 1. If I know beta 0 and beta 1, then only I can calculate the, for a given x, I can just substitute here and can get the value of y. So while doing this, that means maybe I can draw a graph for a line. But if you have a huge data, you cannot take a graph paper and then draw the line and say what is beta 0, what is beta 1, right? So we need to try to define the how we can predict these values and estimate these values. We want equations to do that, because equations are I can write a program, but if taking a graph paper and everything is difficult, right? So I can have y cap. If I want to predict a value of y for a given x, I can require the beta 0 and beta 1 values. So how I can compute the beta 0 and beta 1? We can just start with the residual sum of squares. That means yi is a true value and I'm making the yi cap. This is the predicted value. This is nothing but a error value of ei. So now can I say this value, this is nothing but a residual or error, right? So residual sum of squares, y bar whole square is nothing but ei square. So can I have the e1 square plus e2 square plus en square, that is residual sum of squares. That's what I want to minimize, right? In the linear regression, we say least squares, minimization of the least squares. So by minimizing this one, we can actually get the value of beta 1 and beta 0. Now what is E1? E1 nothing but yi minus yi cap. So yi cap can be, you can substitute this value, beta 0 plus beta 1 xi. You substitute the values here, right? You are getting the RSS, and you try to use the optimization function, to optimize this RSS value, right? You will get the value of sigma I is equal to 1 to n xi minus x bar into yi minus y bar by xi minus x bar whole square, sigma I is equal to 1. Maybe this looks like a somewhat familiar, right? You may be getting some familiarity. Earlier we want to say correlation of between x and y is nothing but sigma xi into xi minus x bar into yi minus y bar by n minus 1, right? Or it's a covariance. To standardize it, we are taking the square root of variance of x into square root of variance of y. But now Of course, if we say x and y, this y is repeated, right? So now we are having this 1. So this is whole square because this square root will go. Now we are having sigma xi minus x bar whole square. Now what is beta 0? Beta 0 is actually, you can see, if I have the values of x, what is the expected value of x is nothing but x bar. What is the expected value of y bar is y bar. So now just consider this one. For beta 0 purpose, you take this beta 1 value and substitute here. But if you want to beta 0, you can have this one come to here, y cap minus beta 1 xi. But yi cap and xi1, you take the expected values, y bar and x bar. So you can have equation with the beta 0 and beta 1. Right? So this is the kind of a regression that you can look into it and see that how we are minimizing the least squares. But now, is it one beta 0 and beta 1? I am computing it and estimating it, right? Estimating it, but there may be true values will be there for beta 0, beta 1. How they are close to this one? So how close this beta 0 cap beta 1 are to the true values of beta 0, beta 1? Normally, that means what? What is the error? So error involved in computing these values. So that's why usually we can call it as a standard error associated with this prediction. That is called a standard error, a SCA error. That will be true for any value, right? Even we are estimating the value mean. If you're estimating the mean, usually this is the formula. The standard error in mu square is nothing but sigma square by n, where n is the total number of samples. So if you have more number of samples, obviously because in the numerator, the error will be reduced. That is the reason whenever we go for any kind of a models, we will ask, give me more number of samples so that our model will be much better. Right? So now, how you can say estimate this beta 0 and beta 1? How close they are? How to know that one? Suppose if you say beta 0 equal to beta 0 cap or beta 1 equal to beta 1 cap, that means we have 100% confidence on the data, right? 100% on the model. But that may not be the situation, right? So now, can you calculate the similarly this one? Can you say sigma square by n? Similarly here, you can say the standard error in beta 1 square is nothing but this sigma square by xi minus x bar whole square. Similarly, you can have a standard error in the beta 0 also. So now the important thing is how once you do the regression, can you say how much confidence you are having that model? Can we say I have a 95% confidence I'm having or not? Assuming that when you have a beta 1, you have predicted a value. Now, can you say this? What is the beta 1? Can we say this beta, the true value of beta 1 lies from here to here, between this one? Can I say within this range, the true value of beta 1 is there? Can you define this range? Can you say that one, this beta 1 cap plus some plus or minus? Can I add some plus or minus things? Right? Can I do that? So that means if I have want to say 95% confidence interval, you can say 95% probability the range will contain the true unknown value of the parameter. That means if I say 95% confidence interval, if I want to define, I want to have a 95% confidence interval that can be defined as a range of values such that this is the range of values such that with a 95% probability, the range will contain the true unknown value of the parameter. That means this range can be defined as like this, plus or minus something. This is a plus with beta 1 cap minus something, right? This is a beta 1 cap minus some value. This one. So that minus some value is nothing but this one. This is a standard error in beta 1. That is standard error also with the beta 1. And this is actually value, multiplied, this is 2. Why this 2? Because of this 95% probability we are looking for. So this 2, if the probability changes, this value may be changed. So that means from minus to plus, it will shift. That is the range of values that we are looking for here. This is one is there. Like that, we usually calculate the confidence intervals. Now, whether, first of all, you are saying, is that X and Y are related or not related? Normally, that we go for the hypothesis testing, correct? So, because we are all familiar with the hypothesis testing, just I'm skipping that one. Because we start with the normally null hypothesis. That means X and Y are not related. And we'll proceed and say, okay, somewhere you can say our null hypothesis is not correct. That means we reject the null hypothesis so that we can say X and Y are related. So that means if X and Y are related, we can say it is alternative hypothesis. If X and Y are not related, that we call it as a null hypothesis. Let me skip these things. So if you are calculating the null hypothesis, we want to say that for testing purpose, we use the t statistic. T statistic is nothing but the beta 1 minus beta 1 cap minus this is beta 0. Because when you say no relationship exists between X and Y, means beta 1 equal to 0. Correct? That means slope equal to 0. Correct? If slope is not there, that is 0, then we can say X and Y are not related. So by standard error in the beta 1. This is called a t distribution. This t statistics will actually useful for us to define the p value. So when you say this t value is nothing but the difference relative to the variation in the observations. Okay? So if we have a higher the t value, that means we are going much evidence with regard to null hypothesis. That means if we have a larger t value, we can say X and Y are not related. So that is also be giving by the p value. P value comes from the t only. It's nothing but when you say this t, can you observe the value, the probability of observing any value that is equal to or mod t or larger, equal to mod t or larger, that value we can call it as a p value. So if a p value is small, then we can infer that the X and Y are related. If a p value is large, we can say X and Y are not related. So once we know the values of X and Y values are related or not related, then we can see if at all we come to conclusion that X and Y are related, then how extent, how good they are related. That means we want to quantify the model fitness with respect to the given data. That is usually done by the two measures. One is called residual standard error, they call RSC, and then second is the R square statistic. So, and we always know that one, we are always thinking that on each and every observation having some kind of error term may be involved, right? So our idea is we want to minimize this, understanding these errors. This RSC is nothing but the standard deviation of that error term epsilon, right? So the formulas are straightforward. We can take residual sum of residual standard error is nothing but residual sum of squares error by n minus 2 under the square root. So that means we know residual sum of squares is nothing but E1's EI square, right? Sigma I is equal to 1 to n EI square. YY minus Y cap whole square. What is the R square measure is nothing but TSS minus R by TSS. Now, why these are important? You can see this R square, when you talk about it, is nothing but a correlation measure. So if you substitute these values, you can get a Xi minus X bar into Y minus Y bar by Xi minus X bar whole square into Y minus Y bar whole square. These are almost the same. Correct? That's why I told that we should see the correlation first. So the important observation here is this is residual standard error, that Y minus Y cap, this residual standard error, residual sum of squares error is coming with the after regression. This TSS is coming from before regression. That's why if you take this TSS minus RSS, it will give the amount of variability in the response that is explained by regression. That means usually what will happen, there is some error is associated with that and we are trying to eliminate that error, correct? We don't want we want to minimize that error. So that is what is our performance of our regression model. If I say, when I can say my regression model is very good, because you can, if I can able to say that okay, there may not be any much error. So that's why the R square measures is gives the variability in Y that can be explained using X. So if it is close to 1 means we are able to explain that variation by the regression, variability by regression. That means they are very good model. The regression model is very good if R square is value is close to 1. Otherwise, we can say the linear model as the model assumption itself is wrong, or maybe the data set itself is having too high. So that's why we got to the if R square is equal to 1, then we can call it as a. So multiple linear regression nothing but extends to this one, because when we are having x1, x2, x3, xp is there. So that means we are taking the p plus 1 parameters. Right? So if we have beta 1 0, beta 1 x, we have 2. When there is only one predictor, we have 2 values, so you have to predict it. If you are having p, then you have a p plus 1 parameters to estimate it. So now this is straightforward, right? Y is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x plus beta p xp plus epsilon. So if you have a TV, radio, newspaper, you can have equation like this. But what is interpretation? What is meaning of it? When you talk about x comma y, we are usually seen that 1 unit change in x is reflect the 1 unit change in y. Sorry, m units of y. Now, because not only x1, we are having x2. Suppose assume that x2. Then if we have this equation means you fix the value of x2, then you can say 1 unit change in x1 is having change in value of y. Suppose if you fix this value, then I can say 1 unit change in x2 is like a m times of the changes in y. That means we can interpret this line as a beta 0 is any coefficient you take, the average effect on y of a 1 unit change increase in xj, holding all other prediction because fixed. Suppose we are fixing these things and then doing it. First of all, suppose x1 and x2, what is the understanding is x1, x2, and then xp. Suppose x3 is there. Suppose like this is there. We are thinking that one they are independent. They don't have any effect on the other one. Suppose that means only we are saying y is only dependent on these things. We never talk about whether x1 and x2 are dependent or not. The idea is x1 are independent. That's why we fix this one. The change in xj we can talk about the. But if that is not the case, then obviously we'll go to in a different scenario. So once we have here beta 0, beta 1, beta p, I want to next calculate estimate these parameters, correct? So that means I have to calculate these values. Again, same equation like least square approximation, we can make it like from RSS. You can compute how you can minimize this one. So usually, normally these equations are longer equations. We usually have implemented using some kind of a software packages. So that means if you have a 3-dimensional figure, you can say x1 and x2 is 2 attributes, 2 predictors, and the value of y, how you can choose this plane. If there only if it is only one predictor and one response variable, then we can say it's a line. If we have a 2 predictor, this is a multiple linear regression, right? If multiple linear regression, there are two predictors and one response variable, we call it, we look like as a plane, right? So when you calculate these values, here you can see the p value is actually matters. This is nothing but a beta 0, this is beta 1, this is beta 2, this is beta 3. And the newspaper is value high. That means newspaper and sales are not related. But this TV and radio, of course, this beta 0 is intercept, so we're not about much worry about it. These two values are very low, right? That means TV is having some relation with the radio, with the sales, and radio also having some relationship with the sales. So then once we have this one, then we usually talk about whether do you require all the predictors or only some of the predictors. So maybe I'll stop here. If you have any questions are there, because I can go ahead. Because the idea is, first of all, always we have to understand the ideas behind the various techniques so that it will be more useful for them, for us. Then we can apply them, because where someone giving you some kind of data where you can apply. So always one can start with the simpler methods first and then go for the complex methods later. And always it is important to find the how we can, suppose if you do the linear regression, or you can go to the ARMA models, or it could be machine learning data decision trees or anything. First of all, you assess the performance of the method and how best or how bad it is working. Maybe sometimes you can see maybe the simpler techniques may work further for very good. As I mentioned in the beginning of the previous session, even star rocket launching could be a linear regression, could be a very good making it. Right?
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, I can take some 1 or 2 minutes questions. Otherwise, okay. I thought
thank you.
participants may not be much. I think I may be not able to explain to them, but there's no questions from the things.
Sir, in the online session, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Dear sir. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Department of Computer Science Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Tirupati, we thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation. One of the resource person and delivered a lecture on decision trees, random forest, bias various traits of the multiple linear regression for the predictive analytics, sir. As a vast experience, expertise, vision, your associates help to the institution and also the program and effective to the entire certifications of the participants, sir. And also thanks the last 1.5 years we association with the BOS member of BOS of the our department, sir. Thanks a lot, sir, for giving the act as a resource person, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for listening the things.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for the Dilip, because he was continuously following up with with the speakers and then doing very good job.